Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the podcast, where we delve deep into topics that improve our everyday lives. I'm your host, and today we're talking about something we've all struggled with at some point: studying effectively.
Let me ask you this. How many times have you sat down with the intention of studying, only to find yourself distracted, overwhelmed, or simply stuck in a rut? Or maybe you've put in hours of effort but felt like nothing stuck in your memory. If that sounds familiar, this episode is for you. Today, we'll explore the science behind learning and uncover proven strategies that can help you study smarter, not harder. We'll discuss techniques rooted in psychology, neuroscience, and educational research to help you make the most of your study sessions. Whether you're a student, a professional learning new skills, or just someone curious about mastering new knowledge, these tips will be game changers.
Before we dive into the strategies, let's tackle a common misconception. Studying harder doesn't necessarily mean studying better. Most of us grew up believing that long hours at the desk equal success. We think that pulling all-nighters or rereading our notes repeatedly is the best way to prepare for exams or presentations. But science tells a different story.
Here's the thing. Our brains have limits. Overloading yourself with information in a short period can lead to burnout and poor retention. This approach might help you survive a test tomorrow, but it won't lead to long-term learning.
So, what does work? To understand this, we need to explore how our brains process and store information. Learning is a complex process that involves 1. Encoding. This is how we initially take in information. If you're distracted or unfocused, encoding suffers, and so does your ability to recall later. 2. Storage. This refers to how information is retained in your brain over time. Think of your memory as a library. You want to organize the books so you can easily find them when needed. 3. Retrieval. Finally, this is the process of recalling information when you need it, like during an exam or in real-life problem solving. By focusing on these 3 stages, encoding, storage, and retrieval, we can optimize how we learn.
Strategies to study smarter. 1. Active recall, the king of learning. If there's one takeaway from today's podcast, it's this. Active recall is your best friend. Active recall means testing yourself on the material you're learning rather than passively reviewing it. For example, instead of rereading your notes, close the notebook and try to explain the concept to yourself. Use flashcards or apps like Anki to test yourself on key points. Research shows that actively retrieving information strengthens neural connections, making it easier to remember in the future.
2. Spaced repetition. Don't cram, spread it out. Spaced repetition is the opposite of cramming. It involves reviewing information at increasing intervals over time. For example, study a topic today, review it again 2 days later, then a week later, and so on. This technique leverages the spacing effect, which states that information is better retained when revisited over time. Apps like Quizlet or Anki make spaced repetition easy to implement. 3. The Feynman technique, teach to learn. Named after physicist Richard Feynman, this technique involves explaining a concept as if you're teaching it to a child. Here's how it works. 1. Write the concept you're trying to learn. 2. Explain it in simple terms. 3. Identify gaps in your understanding and revisit the material to fill them. 4. Repeat until you can explain it clearly. The act of simplifying forces you to deeply process and truly understand the material.
4. Interleaving. Mix it up. While it's tempting to focus on one subject or topic at a time, interleaving suggests you mix things up. For example, if you're studying math, don't just practice one type of problem repeatedly. Instead, alternate between different types of problems. Why? Interleaving helps your brain learn to differentiate between concepts, making retrieval easier in varied contexts.
5. Use multisensory learning. The more senses you involve, the better your brain retains information. For example, read aloud while studying, watch videos, or create visual mind maps. Use hands-on activities or experiments when applicable. Engaging multiple senses helps reinforce the material in your memory.
6. Manage your environment. A cluttered or noisy study environment can make it harder to focus. Here are some tips. Create a dedicated study space that's free from distractions. Use apps like Forest to stay off your phone while studying. Experiment with background music or white noise to find what works best for you.
7. Take care of your brain. Learning isn't just about what you do during study sessions. Your lifestyle plays a huge role. Sleep. Sleep is critical for memory consolidation. Skipping sleep to study is counterproductive. Exercise. Physical activity boosts brain function and focus. Even a short walk can help. Nutrition. Feed your brain with omega-3s, whole grains, and plenty of water. Avoid heavy meals before studying.
Myths about studying. Let's debunk some common myths. 1. Myth: multitasking is effective. Truth: dividing your attention reduces focus and retention. Focus on one task at a time. 2. Myth: long study sessions are better. Truth: short, focused sessions with breaks are far more effective. Use techniques like the Pomodoro method, 25 minutes of work, 5-minute break. Myth: highlighting and rereading are the best techniques. Truth: these are passive strategies. Active recall and spaced repetition are far superior. The role of mindset in learning. Finally, let's talk about mindset. Growth mindset. Believe that intelligence and skills can be developed through effort. Self-compassion. Don't beat yourself up for mistakes. They're part of learning. Motivation. Set clear goals and remind yourself why you're learning. Connecting material to your interests makes it more engaging.
And there you have it. The science of learning and how to study smarter, not harder. Remember, effective learning isn't about how much time you spend, but how you spend that time. By implementing techniques like active recall, spaced repetition, and the Feynman technique, you can transform the way you approach studying. I hope you found these strategies helpful and easy to apply. Start small, pick 1 or 2 techniques and experiment with them in your next study session. You'll be amazed at how much of a difference they can make. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with friends, and leave a review. Let me know what topics you'd like to hear about next. Until then, happy learning, and remember to work smarter, not harder. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode.